My name is Mark Rhine. I am a farmer. I actually run two different companies. I have one called Rhiba Farms, which is the commercial side of my farm, and then Rogue Rhino, which is the private membership club. I've been called Rhino since the 5th grade. So, I went to a private membership club because through Rhiba Farms, my commercial side, I'm not able to sell to end users all of my products because of food safety restrictions, like my pestos, salsas, our chickens, our ducks, our turkeys. None of our meats, I can do that through the Rhiba Farm side. So, but with the direct end user private membership club, I'm allowed now to, as long as you're not reselling my meat or my eggs or anything of that nature, then I'm safe to go. So I wanted to slowly close down the commercial side, and we'll just keep building up the Rogue Rhino side. And again, it's all about health. It's all about building a community, people of eating food, right kind of foods. All of that is so super important to us. And we want to be that community that's doing that. We want to build that. If you want to become a private member, roguerhino.club. Please join the membership, free workshops, tours. We've got a farm store on there so you can buy all of our food, and we can deliver it we have 5 different locations around the valley. I was a broadband contractor, worked for the phone company for 14 years. Started that company in the guest bedroom of my house. We built it up into 85 employees. I had offices in 5 states. And we were working for, at that time, the phone company was called Quest. Quest went through a lot of changes. The owner, chairman got arrested, and so the company slowly was collapsing, and we decided that it was probably time to get out. We were a subcontractor of the phone company. And so a lot of parts and pieces happening, and it took us about a year to sell the actual broadband companies. There were the 5 different offices. We had 165 trucks and all the people, and we finally did sell it after a year. And then we had before that final sale had happened, we actually got into aquaponics, which is what I totally fell in love with in Tucson at University of Arizona. That whole thinking of growing food with fish, I was just like, this is so cool. At that time, there were only 2 different people that were actually educating. One of them was a class down in the Virgin Islands. The other one was a class over in Hawaii. So at that time, my partner and I, we went over to Hawaii and learned their system and their way of doing things. I thought we were going to go play on the beach and have some drinks and go through a little bit of schooling, but it was a full-blown 8-hour classes. I need to see stuff to make it work for me. I'm a concept guy. So, and then with all the phone training that we had, we got repetitive systems. So you've always got a plan B, plan C in case something breaks. But going to these guys' actual farm and watching the system, the way they built it, work was fascinating. And then actually looking at the schematic, all the parts and pieces fell together, and then all the problems that we faced because we were trying to do it in the desert, they were growing in Hawaii. Completely different environments. Our first system was in a parking lot in our building. So we had water problems, we had fish problems. We probably killed 20,000 fish trying to figure out how to get the dump systems to work. In that time period, we had also purchased a property out in Gilbert. It was a foreclosure, and it was a 2-acre farm, and we had gone in, and I moved into that house, and we spent about $150,000 remodeling. It was an old custom, beautiful old home, but way too big for me. I'm a single guy. But what I fell in love with is the soil, the dirt that we turned into soil. And there I built another expansive aquaponics system with my own money. And I finally got to grow with the water against the soil. And so I did all of this testing back and forth. And I learned so much you wouldn't believe of how poor water vegetables are. And because of what they don't have, that soil will give that plant. Same product, same lettuces, basils, everything I'm selling to the restaurants, it's melting in their cooler in 4 days because there's no water for it. It's all roots and water. So in the soil stuff, exact same plants, I'm selling them that product and it's lasting 2 weeks. Everybody's way more happy about that stuff. So I learned a lot. And then we started getting into tissue testing. Then when I started seeing how the water-grown food, or all the hydroponic food, and then the supplements that you had to put in the water food was tremendous because, again, the fish will provide nitrogen, and you're working the nitrogen cycle. So in that cycle, there's still, you've got another 12 or 14 super important elements that go into a head of lettuce. Even though you can grow a head of lettuce in a glass of water, it's not going to be a healthy head of lettuce, but you're still going to grow a head of lettuce in a glass, which is meaningless if you're growing food for nutrient density. So just because you can doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. Another thing were all the aquaponics guys in those days and some of the other tower guys, they had these cauliflower heads that were giant and, let's go test that. Let's see really how nutrient dense it is. And nobody was willing to do that. And in the aquaponics arena, especially on social media, I was one of the very few that took aquaponic food and tissue tested it against soil grown and gave my data and let them all argue over what's good and what's bad. And one of the very unique things I got out of it is that we really don't have what does a nutrient carrot look like? You look at any of the federal stuff, any of the food safety, or you look on the back on a carton of anything or back of the can of anything, the last time that food was tested for any of those nutrients was back in the 70s. That was the last time any of that stuff was enforced. Well, here it is 40 years later, 50 years later, there's a whole different environment. Not only our ecosystem, but our soils, everything has changed. Our seeds have changed. It's completely different. But nobody will sit down and say, okay, this is what we're going to decide is a healthy carrot. This is a healthy cabbage. This is a healthy beet. Nobody wants to do that. So it was left up to us to kind of figure out, okay, this is what we're going to do so that we can measure ourselves against what we would consider good food. And since we're doing everything by hand, my food is twice as expensive as everybody else. So you might as well get a good piece of food. And that was my promise to you. So we started bricks testing, which is a very, very simple method of testing vegetables and fruits with sugar. And it was done way, way back in the 1800s in the Champagne grapes, where the vineyard, they would test their grapes for the max amount of sugar. And they would squish the grapes, and they put it in a refractometer. You'll see them pointing at a light, at the sunlight, and there's a little scale inside there, and it's got a color chart on it, very much like a pH chart. So they could tell when they have the highest sugar, it's the time to pick the grapes. They're ready to go. If you let it go farther than that, the grape over-ripens and starts dying, basically, which is not what you want. Now the plant is signaling, da-da-da, it's time for the bugs to come in. So we take the same exact principle and apply it to carrots, beets, lettuce. We do it on our wheatgrass. And because sugar is so easy to measure, where I don't have a laboratory to measure zinc, all of the other hardcore minerals that I want, boron, molybdenum, all calcium, carbonate, all of that, I can't do that. But I certainly can measure sugar. And as long as I'm growing my food fairly, a high bricks rate means I know I've got a high nutrient dense food. And it's proven time and time again in better flavor, better longevity. So that was my easy way out to not have to spend. Back in the olden days, I spent hundreds of dollars a week on third-party testing in laboratories, measuring lettuces, trying to figure out why my lettuce was so horrible. And then we started doing the soil testing, and Why is the soil lettuce so much better than my water lettuce? Another challenge with the aquaponics system was the fish. I, like everybody else, started with tilapia. Great fish, easy to grow. They grow like crazy, except they can't live in water colder than 55 degrees. And we're from Arizona, so 55 degrees is pretty dang cold to us. Well, it will kill a tilapia, dead. So I've got 100,000 gallon systems, and it's getting cold outside. What do? I got to go buy a heater to heat the water to keep the fish alive. Now my power bill is going through the roof, so I can keep the fish alive, even though it's 55, 60 degrees. They aren't eating, they aren't swimming, they aren't producing nitrogen. They're basically in a state of stasis because they're so damn cold. So, nothing's working. Now I'm pouring supplements into the water to grow the lettuce, the basils, all the vegetables, because the fish are no longer creating the nitrogen. So it's like, oh my God, this isn't working for me at all. And so after we killed a bunch of tilapia, I said, okay, I'm going to try a different fish. So I went to catfish. Great fish. That's when I had the bigger system out at the ranch house, where I had giant tanks. They were 12, 1,500 gallon tanks, and we had big catfish in it. The problem with the catfish is it takes over a year to grow them out. So once I spend all that money on doing all the food, the electrical, all the expenses, and then I can't kill the catfish, clean it, and sell it to a restaurant. It's against state law. I have to actually, and same with my tilapia, I have to take my fish to a FDA certified fish cleaning operation. How many of those are in Phoenix, Arizona? There is one. He was in Peoria. He's 1,500 pound minimum. And like for the tilapia, it was $1.50 a pound. And he would just give me 2 pieces of the fillet, and he would keep all the trash. I said, now all of a sudden I've got $12 tilapia fillets that Costco is selling for 40 cents a piece. So how's this working? After I've raised them, so the numbers weren't working at all. And also I had another problem where the tilapia, they tasted horrible because of the green water. I then had to learn that you have to run your fish through a clean tank for about a month to get all that algae taste out of them. But I had so much frozen tilapia in my freezer, my dogs wouldn't even eat it. It just tasted horrible. Now the catfish, different story. Beautiful, super bony, white meat. And I was really blessed with the catfish. I found one food truck guy who was going to do a big catfish, and he bought 700 pounds of catfish from me in one day. And I was not able to kill the fish. By law, I had to kill it in ice water. So I had to put 750 pounds of catfish in coolers full of ice water and let them flop all around and die in the ice water, and then transport those coolers to the gentleman that bought all of them at the food truck. And then he took them, cut them, had a big old catfish fry, and he paid me for them, and that was a total blessing. No other restaurant guy wants to mess with that kind of stuff at all. So after that, I went to koi. And I was buying the koi out of Texas for 10 cents, grew them out for a year, beautiful colors, and I could sell them to the pond guys for $10, living. So I got no worries about the state, the feds, nobody's bugging me. And I'm actually got a valuable fish. If I have a power outage, the koi can handle. They have the ability to go to the surface, get their air. They can handle pH changes with rainwater. So that was another big problem with raising fish in the desert. When the power goes out, which it does in the desert, they've got no air. What do? You come home and you got 1,000 pounds of belly up fish floating across your tanks. Dig a hole, bury them all, fertilizer. So, the koi was absolutely, at the very, very end was the way to go. And then I got very involved with plant DNA, which was, I have this bad habit, I read too much, but I go down these rabbit holes, and I was learning about the DNA of certain plants. And then it finally was an epiphany that, water, plants that grow in water. Well, lettuce doesn't grow in water. Lettuce has no DNA on how to grow in water. Neither does basil, neither does cauliflower. None of those guys, they're all soil-borne plants. So I said, okay, so let's grow a water plant. So I picked up some taro out of Texas again, which is a water root, super healthy. Grew like wildfire. Then I grew ginger, taro, ginger, turmeric, another water plant that has water in its DNA from the past history. And now I've crossed what my dear friend George, he calls jumping the chasm for aquaponics. All these other guys are struggling trying to grow those conventional plants in this unconventional system that is incredibly expensive to run. And then when soil can be a portion, better food, much less expensive. But now if we're growing a water plant, a whole different world. So, and that was just at the very end of my aquaponics world at that time, when we were sold the businesses, and I actually moved out of that house, and I had to tear down the aquaponics systems. So that's why now I've got the itch to fire them up again. 7, 8 years later, we'll see what I can piece together with. I ran out of money, basically. Extremely expensive systems to build. And that was probably my biggest learning curve, was not learning how to grow production food, but learning how to sell it, finding your markets. As I mentioned earlier, we were doing 31 restaurants before COVID. On one day, we lost 31 customers. It was tragic. I mean, they just shut down. And I've got a beautiful team that works with me. There's only 4 or 5 of us. And I've only got so much money in savings. And I go, you guys, I can only keep you for a couple of weeks and we're done. Albertsons even shut me down because they're using their trucks moving toilet paper around instead of picking up produce. So, but they all said that they would be more than happy to continue working as long as we could. And then I got a PPP loan, which got me some more income. And then we got into farm boxes, which was, again, the universe. It was a blessing. We got into this farm box program, and it uses a little bit of all of our produce. We put it all in one box. We feed a family with it. And during COVID, it saved us. We're selling tons of these little boxes to people. Now we've kept on that progression going on and on and on. So we're doing 100 or 150 boxes a week, which keeps this farm moving. Absolutely keeps us moving. And then we've got the markets on the weekends, and Albertsons is back for the microgreens. So all of those pieces played an important part of our role. But here, even at this little farm stand, this is all community-based. This is the neighborhood that we're feeding, and you should see how much they've helped us today. They probably spent $1,000 or $1,200 here just this morning. And that is, that's blood money for me. That helps us so much. And then we get to meet all of our people. They know who we are, what we're doing. I am organically certified. I'm not convinced that everybody needs to be certified. I'm only certified because Albertsons pays me to be certified. If I didn't have that account, I wouldn't certify. People want to know their farmer. They want to meet me. They want to do a tour. They want to know Dixie. They want to know the people that are growing their food, to feel that confidence that we're not going to give them shit. And this is really the best way to do it. So I'm not here to feed Phoenix. I can't. I'm too small. I want a group of about 100 people that are going to be with us every weekend. We're going to keep them fed. We're going to teach them all about new foods, nutrient density. We're going to teach them how to eat seasonably. We're going to show them the weirdest stuff they've ever tried to eat, ever. And we grow 168 different items on this property. And we only sell what we grow. So, and I can't, for me, monocropping or just concentrating on one product, I'd go crazy. I got to have 25 balls in the air, all working, all doing something different. And, again, with the young people working for us, like Farmer Dixie, who is our beekeeper, Farmer Zach, who is super into mushrooms. There's Husto, he's my head gardener, who is running all the gardens for us. And basically, I'm in charge with all the paperwork, the money, keeping everybody paid, and keeping this thing moving forward. And it's been a passion. This is not work for profit. This is all a passion play. So every young farmer that wants to come up and try and pick my brain and steal all my secrets and, just don't do these certain things. Don't borrow a bunch of money to start your business. Start small, learn how to grow, figure out your markets, buy your land. Absolutely do not lease or rent, because you've got to put in infrastructure. There is no reason for you to spend $10,000 on underground piping for your sprinkler systems that you're going to be gone on in 2 years. That's just dumb. And I know land is really expensive right now, but it's out there. I mean, I found this little 3-acre piece 7 years ago, and back then I was in the Tules. Now I got 10,000 homes around me, and it was very affordable. And you keep going east, it's very affordable. So, and you just got to learn your land. The longer you're on your land, the better your land's going to be. The older your trees are, the better your fruit's going to be. The farmer's shadow is critical. I'm very old school. You'll find very little technology here. Robots zapping weeds in my garden. Where's my shotgun? I'm going to shoot the frickin' robot. That's just stupid to me. What a waste of money, time, effort. You put a man out there and a hula hoe and let him go hula hoe the weeds. You could do a lot of thinking behind a hula hoe. And and young men especially, they've got, in today's world, so many challenges facing them. And they just got to get away from the video games, the TV, the news, and all the other pressures, and you go sweat out your day. And you're a completely different person at the end of the day. Here we are walking zombies in the summer by 11 o'clock. So we work from 4 to 11. Everybody goes home and takes a nap, and then they finish out their day.
As an independent team of filmmakers, we love producing documentaries for artisans of all trades, honoring skill, passion, and determination. So whether you're a garage baker, homegrown mycologist, backyard farmer, or off-grid homesteader, send us a message and share your story with the world.
But for the last 15 years, I've sacrificed every Saturday to the markets because we got to have them for cash flow. And it's also another great way to meet your customers. You learn what they grow, what they like, what they don't like, what sells. All of those are key issues. And then so that you know what to do next year. Some food grows better in one places. So everything I could teach you today on my property, you could go 2 miles down the road on their soil, they're going to be in a completely different world. I could show you some of our basics, but until you put your shadow on that land, you put that labor into your land, that's when you're going to learn how good it is. And a lot of people will just throw up their arms. The hardest part about growing vegetables is getting off the couch. It really is. It's murder. It hurts. But the feeling you get when you're done and when you're harvesting is phenomenal. Especially like us, we're feeding other people. I was in a panel about 8 or 9 years ago at a restaurant, and this lady came up to me and she was point blank. After everything you've told me this afternoon and all the struggles you've had, why do you do what you do? And I said, I do it for you. And I stopped her in her tracks. She goes, you do it for me? We do this to serve. I've never been more happy or had a purpose in my life than serving people by feeding them. It's an extremely humbling experience to have so many hundreds of people eat my food with confidence. And you think about it, we're pre-programmed, we'll stick anything in our mouths ever since we were kids. But when you get a little older like I am, you start thinking about what you're putting in your mouth. And holy cow, this is horrible. And that's, that to me is part of the blessing. And again, we don't want to sell to all of Phoenix. What I would love to see is have 5,000 of these little farms sprinkled across the valley. And that's why I mentioned earlier that this is not scalable, but it's replicable. So we get with that 3 to 5 acre model, and then we grow the daylights out of it. There's an old guy, it's called biointensive farming. It was the original. All of the names of all the new farming have all been thought up. I mean, even regenerative agriculture started back in Australia back in the 1800s. They call it paddock farming. And now regenerative is paddock farming. French intensive is now biointensive farming. Even permaculture was created 100 plus years ago. And there's a couple of the old timers that really brought this stuff up forward and trying to get people to start this form of growing. And then we've got the conventional ag people that I dearly love to death, but they're stuck in that government supported system and they can't get out. And their family's been there for 40 years. They're monocropping corn. They know the corn that they're growing. What it costs them to produce the corn, they could never sell it for, but they're getting supplements from the government. All that game with the seed companies, and it's got, America agriculture strangled. The FDA is involved. All of the USDA is involved. All of they're a great organization, but it's just another government entity in the way from letting people grow what they grow. The idea that you can patent a seed is just lunacy that we even allow that to happen. And don't get me started on GMO, or any of that other shit that's going on with man trying to change nature. Let's go back to the way it was. My grandmother was an organic grower, and she didn't even know it. And look at how, 92 drinking whiskey and eating bacon, and now we're lucky to make it past 78. In fact, I think I was looking at Social Security the other day. I'm only supposed to make it to 82. That's what they're planning on for their money. And I go, so what happens after 82? Well, now we're taking money that I wasn't supposed to. They're paying me, but and this is the first generation. I'm sure you've been watching the news where our children are going to live a lot less years than we are because of what they're getting fed. So as we slowly, I'm only one little guy trying to change everything, but yet I've got to turn off the noise of the outside world and do what we know how to do. And we pray a lot. We're firm believers in God. This is how we're going to go through life, and this is our purpose. And we'll see what happens. If the zombie apocalypse happens, and we're the only guys around that's growing food, we have water, and say they turn off all the electricity, what are we going to do? I mean, do you have 3 months worth of food in your pantry? Do you have a week's worth of food in your pantry? Okay, you make it a week, but you're not going to get gas. Your phone's going to be dead. You're not going to have water. There's no electric pumps pumping water to your house. So how are you going to, all of this, you don't need to go crazy in the prepping world, but in today's world, especially in our stupid political stuff, we could be close to a nuclear war. We haven't been this close since Cuba, since the 50s. Nobody's ever worried about it. And now we just don't know what to do. One guy pushes the button and we're going to be in trouble. So what I would love to do is show everybody how to grow their own food at home. Let their home be a unit of production instead of consumption. And this is one thing I love to do, especially when we're doing our speeches or on our tours, is I'll get 4 or 5 people out and I'll say, come on in, give me your monthly expenses. What does it cost you to live in your home or apartment on a daily basis? Have you ever thought about that? Most people haven't figured it out. So I have a mortgage, insurance, electricity, utilities, internet, da-da-da-da-da-da. What's it cost you per day? It's $165 a day to live in my house. So you come home and you spend $165. Why aren't you home producing something to offset that cost? And I don't care if you're quilting, if you're baking bread, if you're making lemonade, whatever you're doing. But with the internet today, there's no excuse why every home should have, well, the kids call it a side hustle, but a second job, a second thing going on right now. And producing food is one of them. If you are the best tomato grower in your neighborhood, you could make $100 a weekend with your neighbors selling tomatoes to them out of your garage on Saturday morning. Why not? If you grow pumpkins, zucchinis, whatever you want to grow out of your gardens, and then share that with your neighbors. If you've got apple trees, plum trees, whatever you've got going, start selling your food. And even if you want to, sun dry it, dehydrate it, freeze dry it, whatever you want to come up with, put a table out, open up the garage, start selling it. Your goal for that month is whatever it is, $1,300. Break that out into 4 weekends. Okay, I know what I got to do. I'm going to do my best to make $400 today. Whether I'm selling, whatever. I don't, you can even do clothes or baby clothes, whatever you got junk in your house. But offset those expenses. I just don't get it. I don't know why we don't do it. Other than turning off the TV. You're going to have to turn off the football games and stuff like that, which is, what most of us are. We need our entertainment somehow. So I know some great guys that brew some of the best beer I've ever tasted in their garage. And they've got 100 gallons of beer sitting in there. Dude, you could make $1,000 a month off this beer, no problem. Why don't you sell your beer? Don't give me that excuse. Yeah, you're gonna run out, so put your mind into production mode, start brewing beer, start brewing wine. I don't care what you do. Start figuring out a way to make money so you can offset those expenses. And once we get all back to that agriculture type of thinking of living, I think we'll be a lot better off. Technology definitely has its place, don't get me wrong. But again, if I see a robot in my garden zapping my weeds, I'm gonna shoot it with a shotgun. No questions asked. Nobody's gonna outgrow me using a frickin' robot. Ain't gonna happen. The soil is the secret to your food. So if you've got bugs, you got bad soil. You got sick plants, you got bad soil. That is the whole game. So I know a lot of you have smaller yards, so you're gonna probably be a container grower, something of that nature, where you're not gonna be able to put trees and everything in. But think through your soils, and then once your soil gets started, learn your seasons, and then grow your products. Obviously, grow what you like, and then you're gonna start learning the seasons. Like you can't grow tomatoes in the fall, but I'm sure you'll run to Home Depot and spend $80 on tomato plants, and they'll all poop out on you, and you'll be pissed. So and most people get really frustrated with their home gardens because they want to grow something really easy. And there are definitely easier foods to grow than others, like okra. Oh my gosh, super easy to grow if you like okra. We have a 600-foot wall out on the other side there that I've ran out of soil here. I'm desperately looking for more land to grow. And we put in a whole bunch of cactus out there. And now we're eating cactus patties, nopales, great food. The prickly pears, the actual fruit that comes off it, great food. What is it that you want to eat? If you do have room for trees, definitely skip the ash and all the silly landscape trees and put in fruit trees. Citrus grows really well here, and there's you can learn how to graft on your trees. There's several lemon lime trees that you can graft. We've got apple trees with 2 or 3 different kinds of apples on them. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do if you've got room for fruit trees. And then if it's peaches, strawberries, and then if you're looking for anything longevity-wise, stuff that you want to dry, I mean, you can grow potatoes in garbage cans. Super easy. Super flippin' easy. You know, you just set up your garbage cans, put your slips in it, bury it, let the plants grow, water it, dig out your potatoes, and then if you're going to dry or if you're going to, the one thing I love about the Mormons is their food preservative ways and how they thought their pantries out. If you can sit down and think out your pantry and how you want to do that, if you're a big reader, there's an author named John Jevons who actually broke down all of the vegetables into a calorie. And he shows how many calories you need to grow to feed yourself. And it's 1,200 calories for an adult. For a teenage male, it's 1,800 calories per year, or 1,800 pounds of food per year. But he broke everything down into calories. And so he's got all the graphs and everything you need to do if you want to basically feed your family from your house or from your garden. Granted, you're not going to be able to do wheats and the flowers and stuff like that. You can still buy in bulk, put them in your pantries, work your way through them through the year. You just don't want to buy a 55-gallon barrel of flour, put it in your pantry and forget about it. It's going to rot on you. It will go bad. So, and then water too. All your water you want to keep, that's drums of water, fuel. But again, for the home gardener, soil is your magic. Figure out where you're going to start, what you want to grow, and then get your good soil, put it in there, then put in a nice watering system. Obviously, you're probably going to be watering with city water, and then learn your fertilizers. You can buy all kinds of crazy fertilizers at all the grocery stores, at all of the Home Depots and Lowe's. And if you just basically, like what we do here, we learn and find the mineral itself. So I'm spending $1,400 on a pallet of minerals that if it was retailed, would retail for about $8,500 because somebody put a nice label on it, you know, Mr. whatever, the Green Dragon or whatever their name is, you know, something forest or whatever, you know, and that's just their gimmick to sell you that basic product. So, and again, every house is going to have the best or different soil content. So if you're using the soil that was given to you, first of all, dig up your lawn. And if you've got gravel, pull up all the gravel. And that's going to drive you crazy because it's going to be about a foot thick. I remember I did that at my very first house. And I probably had 18,000 pounds of granite around the house. And it took so many dump loads and thousands of dollars to throw away until I could finally get down to dirt. And then it was just the most rock hard, crazy, but that was my chalkboard that I started with. So then we started beating up that, you know, tilling it, turning it. Then I started working the organic material in it, all of that. Don't spend another dollar on a grass lawn ever again. Just quit doing it. If you can't eat it, why are you growing it? So put in your gardens, lay them out. A lot of you might have HOA restrictions on what you can and can't do. Obviously, you've got to live within those restrictions. I would always highly recommend every house get a chicken, but you got to have more than one. Chickens will die of loneliness. So you got to have 4 chickens. Don't want a rooster. Roosters make noise. Chickens do too. But now you've got an egg laying machine, and you've got a garbage disposal, because everything that you're not eating for dinner, your chickens are going to dearly love, and they're going to convert it into a beautiful piece of protein, calcium. The chicken egg is probably the healthiest thing we could possibly eat. And I know the FDA demonized it 20 or 30 years ago because of cholesterol. But if you look at the proteins and the calciums, everything that's in a chicken egg, oh my gosh. For people, it's incredibly healthy. And then you can raise your own birds. If you want to go to the step of actually killing your birds and harvesting them for food, it's a big leap. It's a big jump, especially if you make pets out of your birds. But after 2 or 3 years, your girls, if you're worried about what's called a food conversion, are not going to be laying as many eggs as they were when they were young. And that's when it's time to replace them with some younger girls. And those would be your stew pot chicken, that type of thing. They might not be the best breast meat or anything like that, but they're certainly great for making an old chicken stew or whatever, and then putting that in the freezer, and we'll be more than happy to teach. We harvest our birds every 40 days, and there's a couple other people here. We'll teach you how to do it. It's gruesome, it really is, but it's until you get it in your head that. And I was a vegetarian for like 10 years. I did no meat whatsoever. And then I finally went back to meat. And the older I got, the more I needed it. But, killing animals and cows, I love cows, they're fun. But I didn't see the value in eating the cow until I got older, and then I really needed it. And now it's even more and more is coming out how much more we need to eat the cows. So granted, you're not going to be able to grow a cow in your backyard, but chickens, if you and your family, say it's you and a couple of kids, your wife and 2 kids, and you grow 4 or 8 chickens, you can do well. They'll help you. Again, we're reusing that organic garbage, that organic waste. We're turning it into eggs, even their eggs, and then you can turn them into food. And sell eggs in your garage sale. You can get $10 for a dozen eggs if you know what you're doing. But you got to feed them right. You got to feed them with organic feed. So chickens, they take some knowledge, but very little. Super easy. And they take care of all the bugs in your garden. So chickens are so simple, and I would highly recommend it to everybody. Yes, they're noisy, and if you let them on your patio, they're going to poop on your patio. That's part of life. It really is. But everybody should have a home garden. Everybody should have a moringa tree in their front yard. That big old giant ugly monster. There's one over here. We've got like 50 of them on the property. Now there's a tree. You can eat the entire tree. And it's protein. It's amino acids. You can actually live off of one tree by eating its leaves every day. You can support your whole family off that tree. That's pretty dang amazing. That's where you got to study, do your research. Just because you live in the desert doesn't mean you can't grow great food. You absolutely can grow great food here. And like I mentioned earlier, you got 300, 310 growing days a year, where the rest of the world, of my old home in Oregon, they're like 150 or 180 days a year. The rest of the time it's raining and it's snowing. Probably just the way the property is set up. I get this statement all the time, it's like an oasis in the middle of the desert. When I drove in your gate, I couldn't believe all the greenery you have going on here. And I go, yeah, and that's purpose. To me, this property is a sanctuary. And I'm very, very picky about the people that I let on the property. And I'm extremely grumpy about screaming kids, throwing rocks at the ducks. And we love young people, but they've got to have a level head, and they've got to learn this is not a playground. This is a sanctuary. And I'd invite you, when the yoga girls come and they do their thing, to go out there and walk barefoot once the heat goes away. The vibration you get off the ground is so pleasant. Whenever, if you meet another farmer at a market, go to their farm, go check out their place. You know, you see they have chicken eggs for sale. Go see their chicken coops. If they don't have chicken coops, well then, where are their chicken eggs coming from? You know, or if they're selling flowers or watermelons. Can I see a watermelon? Well, we don't have it here. Well, where are your watermelons? And you'll start to learn, like, you know, the farmers markets today are polluted with resellers. And it's a real shame that there's no thought against resellers. I'm a producer. I'm a small producer. And the biggest crime to me at a farmer's market is the guy next to me that's buying his food at a distributor or Costco or wherever he's getting it, putting it in his boxes and reselling it as his food. Or he's got 50 dozen eggs and he has no chickens and he's selling his eggs cheaper than mine because he's not feeding them organic feed. He has no idea, you know, the other guy is selling it to him for $5, so he's making $3 a dozen. Now here I am raising the eggs and barely making $1 a dozen. So and that's the complete unfairness about the resellers and that whole game. So, but when people come here, they're just amazed of the greenery and then also the vibration that the property puts out. And then once they spend time and walk the property and see and experience how much life is here, not only in insects, in birds, and if we'll have our spring parties where we'll have people that you'll stay here during the evening when the bats come out and all of that, the sounds of the nights with the owls and everything. There's just an abundance of life in this little 3-acre plot. And that's what most people are just totally, because they're from the asphalt jungle. They have no idea what this is to experience. And yes, we got bugs that sting you. We got scorpions. We've got ants that will bite your toe off. All that stuff lives here because this is a living ecosystem. That's how our food grows. Without pesticides, everything here is free to live. So you're going to see dragonflies, praying mantis. You're going to see all of the predator bugs eating all of the other bugs, you know. And it's a really harsh thing to finally figure out in your life that everything kills to eat. Everything. Bacteria, microorganisms, we all kill something to feed ourselves. And that's what's going on out there. And that's what I think most people are in just utter shock over. And then some of the creative stuff like our mushroom boxes, you know, how we do that out of a shipping container, some of the creativity that a farmer, I don't know a farmer that doesn't know how to fix just about everything. And if he doesn't, he'll go to YouTube and ask that how to fix it. Because he just doesn't have the money to call in the professional to get it done, like fix your tractors. And, you know, there's some stuff that's way out of our league. But, you know, to me, to call in a tractor mechanic, holy cow, it's $200 just to have him pull on the property. You know, and then he's $165 an hour. I don't pay anybody here $165 an hour. Now, that's brain surgery to me, but not to a lot of other people. So those are the things that I love about farming and this particular farm. And I would so love to build another one. I don't have the money to do it. I'd have to do it with somebody else's money. Because, like I say, you know, this is not work of profit. This is passion. I mean, we pay our bills. We live fine. We're fed very well. all my trucks, all my cars have over 200,000 miles on them. They're anywhere from 15 to 20 years old. You know, I don't need a fancy car. I don't. I need a car that works. That's another thing about this place. Everybody and everything works. Even my dogs. My dogs work at night. You know, when we're going through employees, we don't care what color they are, what gender they are. You either work or you don't. And when you're out there, and it's like this, it's blood and guts, man. Nothing will hurt you more than the heat. It's really hard. And it will break you quicker than anything. So, and it takes grit, a lot of grit to work this kind of stuff. And that's just in the outside work. When you come in the inside and start taking care of the books and all of that, and trying to figure out how you're going to pay all your bills, because like I said, I can't pay SRP with lettuce, and try to keep all of that in check, because everything we buy is retail. And then we're doing our best, and we're pretty much a blue collar farmer, so our food is definitely not the most expensive. If you go look at the farmers markets, some of the other guys are selling the same food for a whole lot more money, but I don't need to. So, and again, my whole secret was with the markets and the farm was not to just do 4 or 5 things. I want to do 50 different things. And that's what makes the market so much more desirable, that one-stop shopping thing. The other piece I wish I could figure out where COVID, we started playing with this, but COVID got us in this Amazon mood where everybody wants home delivery. And as a farmer, I'm really poor at logistics, like delivering food to a whole bunch of different people. If I could figure out an affordable way to do a home delivery, I'd be all over that. And I know we would be able to sell the daylights out of it. And I can't, any of the delivery services that we talk to, they won't take anything refrigerated, anything frozen. They'll do hot food, but they won't do fresh food or anything of that nature. And then, if somebody in the neighborhood wants to buy a bunch of squash, they're going to charge them $50 for a delivery of some butternut squash. That's not going to work either. So that's one piece of the puzzle I'd love to put together. But otherwise, I love having the people come to us, getting to meet all of our neighbors. I can't remember anybody's name. Everybody remembers my name, and I'm their best friend, and I haven't seen them in 90 days. And so I just kind of gotta, mumble my way through that mess and stay positive. And some people, we've got a lot of enemies that don't like us for what we do. And I don't know why. Well, kind of sort of know why, but one thing about farmers, we all have giant egos. So, and we're very proud of what we do and what we grow, and we do it our way. And I love young people that want to come to work here, and they're going to tell me how to grow food. And I said, this is not a democracy. That's not how it works here. I'll tell you what I want you to get done, you get it done. This is what's called a monarchy. Do it my way every time. I'll take your advice, but otherwise do it my way. And that's how it's gonna go. When you do your own farm, you do it your way, and you can be the same way. But I don't need to repeat the same thing over and over again. And which I love about Justo, my head gardener. It's the way we've built basically the breakdown with the employees here. I tell Justo what I want done. Justo manages the people. If the people are coming to me, or if I'm going to the people, we've got a problem. I've got a problem. And that's just not the way. You don't want to come to me to figure out the problem. Go through Justo. Work the system. Work your ranks. Whatever is going on, if you got a family, you work your system. So, because he understands manpower, I need to know what's going on, who's here. I need to know that there's 150 boxes going out next Wednesday. I've got the invoice for it. He's responsible for the 150 boxes on the floor and in the truck. That's huge. And if we don't do it, we're just cutting our throats down the road. So you gotta draw that line. There's just not a lot of room. We can make a million mistakes. There's gonna be hailstorms that are gonna knock us down. We're very resilient when it comes to that kind of shit, other than stupidity. Just can't, it's not allowed. If we're teaching somebody, it's different. But stupidity is, you've been told 5 times, you know what to do, and you just didn't do it this time because of laziness or something else. Even intention. Are you familiar with the word intention? When we grow food or when we're planting, We plant with intention. So when everybody's going to go out and sow a garden, we all talk, we'll say a prayer. I don't want you to worry about your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your bills, your mother with cancer. I don't want you to worry about the president. I don't want you to worry about no anger, no fear. You plant with love. And when you plant with intention, that vibration goes right into the seed, goes right into the ground, and we do it that way over and over and over again. When our animals get in trouble, we don't go over there and beat them in the head with a stick. We treat them with love and caring because they're living their best life. And yeah, they don't know that they weren't supposed to get into the basil, so we're not going to beat them over the head or anything. We're going to correct their actions and just move them over. Put your temper in your back pocket and you live with love. And that's how this whole place operates. It's on that same, love always wins. Love will conquer the world.
Hire us to tell your story. As an independent team of filmmakers, we love producing documentaries for artisans of all trades, honoring skill, passion, and determination.
The fruits of our labor literally creates happiness.
Founded in 2020, we harness our collective experience and enthusiasm for storytelling to deliver content that resonates with viewers on every level.
Think big and think outside of the box.
We avoid the constant noise of clickbait news and outrage headlines, instead crafting more intimate narratives that touch on the purpose of life itself. Stories that not only inform but also inspire. Whether it's the art of agriculture, the science of fermentation, an innovative garage startup, or the intricacies of off-grid living, we're here to explore it all and invite you to join us in the discovery.
You're just working with what you have at hand instead of having unrealistic expectations.
We know the world is brimming with hidden stories waiting to be told. These are tales of ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
The biggest thing is to realize that there's nothing that you can't do.
Embodying the American spirit that with hard work, dreams really can come true. So whether you're a garage baker, homegrown mycologist, backyard farmer, or off-grid homesteader, send us a message and share your story with the world.